Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsay Coble.
Dr. Noelle Crosby, and we're the Sound Sisters, and this is the Hearing Diaries. Today's guest is someone who blends thoughtful clinical care with smart practice design. Liz Rogers is an audiologist and practice owner who has built a truly collaborative care model that includes ENT, nurse practitioners, speech pathology, all working together under one roof, along, of course, with audiology, and a strong team of audiology assistants. Liz brings a modern team-based approach to hearing healthcare and communication care, and she is not afraid to have a little fun while doing it. If anyone's seen her videos and her reels, we are excited to talk about leadership, collaboration, content creation, and what it really looks like to build a practice that works for both patients and providers. So Liz, welcome to the Sound Sisters.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what brought you into audiology.
It's the vanilla story. I started in speech and then found audiology.
So many
kind
of
like
us, right?
So many of us. But I will say, kind of the unique part about it was that I didn't find speech on my own. I was already at IU for undergrad. So go Hoosiers.
Oh, Hoosiers.
Super proud of my alma mater a couple weeks ago. But I was in undergrad. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had a friend of the family who was just kind of talking to me about what I was, what my thoughts were, what my plans were. And he said, Liz, you're so outgoing and you're so fun. You should look into speech pathology. And his daughter-in-law was a speech pathologist. He said, she makes her own hours, she makes good money, all these things. So that's how I found speech, and then ultimately took an audiology class and just loved it.
Yeah. It's funny how so many of us just find it by mistake,
So now you own your own practice. What got you into practice ownership? Was that what you did from the start, or did you kind of find your way there?
No. Oh my gosh. I never thought I would be a practice owner. I never thought I would work with adults. Let's go way back. I never thought I was going to work with kids, and then somehow fell in love with pediatrics. And then my externship was 100% pediatrics. And I thought that's what I was going to do forever, was work with pediatrics and cochlear implants. That was my passion. And then I came to Kentucky, was working in Lexington, and a few years in was looking for a change, and started working for Dr. Angela Morris in Corbin, which is about an hour and a half south of Lexington. And she told me at that time when I interviewed, she said, in about 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be looking to sell. My husband and I will be moving probably. And so if you're interested, you can look at it first if you want. And I thought, I won't be interested, but thanks. But a year and a half, it was literally a year and a half later, she decided that she was ready to sell. I was pregnant with our first baby. And she said, Liz, I'm ready to sell. Do you want to buy? And I thought, no, I'm not anywhere near, no. But my husband, was the trigger man. He was extremely supportive. He said, you can absolutely do this. I know you can. We need to do this. And so we did. And here we are.
And here you are. How many years has it been since then? How many years have you
it'll be 10 years next year.
Awesome.
So 9 years. It was actually 9 years, almost to the day. It was January of 2017 when we bought it.
So awesome.
Yeah. Yes. Well, let's talk a little bit. So you're in Lexington, Kentucky, right?
No, we're in Corbin.
Oh, Corbin. Well, you're in Corbin.
Yeah, we're in Corbin. Yeah, okay. I was living in Lexington at the time, but the practice is in Corbin. Yeah.
Okay. And is that a smaller town or city? Not as many services available?
Yes. So it's a rural part of Kentucky, but I tell people when they're like, where's Corbin? I'm like, it's literally off of 75. You pass right through Corbin. We have two Krogers, we have a Walmart, we have an Aldi, so it's we're not in the middle of nowhere, but it's still considered rural Kentucky. So it is a smaller town, not a lot of specialty services, things like that.
So then I was going to ask you, that's probably what got you to the next part of what we want to talk to you about, because you've built a collaborative practice model that includes audiology, ENT, we'll hear that story, and speech pathology, as well as using a lot of assistance. So what inspired you to have that structure?
Man, I'm sure it wasn't long after I bought the practice. Now we had ENT groups that were satelliting to the area. There were two from different practices, and they were booked out like 8 weeks still. And I don't know. I just really thought, like, man, we really need an ENT in Corbin, like a full-time ENT in Corbin. And I just kind of started thinking about that and looking at that. And my initial thought was, I just need to try and recruit an ENT to open their own practice in Corbin. And then, like we'll have one and we can work together and stuff like that. And then
until they get their own audiologist, right?
right. Well, in both of the ENT groups that were satelliting, they had their own audiologists. Okay. But we still worked with them. And so anyways, I had the thought of hiring an ENT, and I had talked to a couple of people about it, and I talked to someone about it who said that will never happen. Like that, an ENT will never work for an audiologist. And I was still young, and I just thought, oh, okay, like it'll never happen. And so I just kind of kept going down, I need to try and like recruit an ENT to the area. And I always have to give a shout out to Dr. Leyendecker at this point in the story when people ask. We were at an ADA conference, and he was talking about hiring a psychologist for his tinnitus practice. And I said, I thought about, I really need to bring an ENT to Corbin. I'm trying to figure out how to recruit one. And he just looked at me and he goes, why don't you hire one? And I said to him, that's what I said. And he goes, well, yeah, like, why don't you just do that? And that was like that was the spark that I needed to go, okay, like how would this really look? And then I talked to a few other people. I actually talked to an ophthalmologist that was in the area. And after that meeting with him, was when I said, I'm going to hire an ENT. And I actually said it to my team, and I said, it's probably going to take me 5 to 7 years. And it took me 5 years almost to the day. And so we did it.
And you did.
Yeah. So now we got to hear all this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so for people, who are really interested in like, oh, I want to do that. I was kind of talking to Dr. Crosby before we started recording, and I would ask yourself, what do you need an ENT for? And the reason that I ask that is because if you're wanting someone to kind of help manage ordering imaging or prescribing or doing scopes or, kind of like some general ENT management, but you've got a lot of ENTs maybe in your area that you work with or refer to, I would consider looking at hiring a nurse practitioner over a physician, because that's ultimately what we ended up doing. And I can get to that point. But if you're like me and you don't have an ENT in the area and it takes, an hour, 2 hours to get somewhere, things like that, then absolutely, I would consider bringing on a physician. But it took a while because you have to change the whole structure of your business. You have to change how you're classified with insurances. You're no longer an audiology clinic. You're now a multi-specialty medical clinic. That took a year to kind of change that with all of the payers, which set the groundwork for hiring a speech pathologist. Because even though the idea for hiring an ENT came first, I hired a speech pathologist before I hired an ENT. But that groundwork, everything was already done, which was really nice.
So even just hiring a speech pathologist, you would have to be a multi-specialty clinic.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I don't know that I would have known that.
I didn't either. Another, huge shout out to Dr. Kim Cabot, because she worked with me a lot on all of this. And the other thing, now, in some states, I've also heard audiologists can't employ ENTs because of how they're classified in the state. So that's also a thing. But I had to call Anthem. I had to kind of talk to them about what we were looking to do, our setup. And they are the ones that said, well, first you need to change your classification to a multi-specialty clinic. And so that's what we did. So that took a while. And then, of course, finding somebody, I mean, just like audiologists, I mean, if you think an audiologist is hard to find, an ENT is even harder.
And recruit into a smaller town. Can't imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
So I find that so interesting about the having to change the classification. And then I'm sure your insurance probably went up a lot for your malpractice or other things like that, maybe other buildings.
Yeah.
Did all of
And
that
so
change?
that was, I mean, so I had to go through a different company, the company that we work with, for audiology and speech. They don't cover physicians. They don't even cover nurse practitioners. So I have, like all different types of malpractice insurance now. But so I had to work with a different company, and their process for covering a physician is much more involved. I mean, like they were asking questions and I was like, why do you need to know this? Like they wanted to know like spouse's name and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not putting that on. I'm like, this is none of your business. I'm not putting that on there. But like, they, oh, what's it called? I can't remember now, but they want it's a claims something, basically a claims report. Like, has the physician ever had a claim filed against them? Have they ever been sued for malpractice and stuff like that? I mean, their malpractice insurance is very expensive. Their litigation rate is much higher. So the application for that alone took forever because you're digging out a bunch of information and then credentialing and stuff. But you have to have the malpractice insurance before you can credential. And that's
what a
always
process.
So fun. And it's expensive.
What a process.
It is a process.
What a process. And did you have to buy a lot of specialty equipment for the ENT?
Yes. So that was also something that kind of like just fell into place. Like when I think back on it, I'm like, man, all of this happened in just such perfect divine timing. But we had an ENT that decided to come as an independent contractor a couple times a month. And so, he had said, this is just like the bare minimum basic stuff that I would need to like see patients, do ear cleanings. And we already had a lot of it. We had suction, right. We have an irrigator. I did buy a floor microscope and I bought one from GEDMed. They have a difference between like a surgical microscope and a floor microscope, because surgical microscopes are like $30,000. They're so expensive. And Dr. Alicia Spohr said, well, you need to talk to GEDMed and see what they offer. And they were like, well, we have a floor model, and it was way less expensive and still perfect and does exactly what we need it to do. I bought an exam chair on eBay for a couple of $100. But for our suction, we just bought a bunch of different tips that he wanted. But our speech pathologist is really into swallow function. And so when I hired her, she does scopes and really wanted to continue doing that. And so I invested in a scope for her specifically. So when the ENT came on full time, we already had a scope. So it wasn't like I had to put out a large chunk of money up front. These things were kind of like acquired over a couple of years, which was really helpful. But to start an ENT clinic from scratch and buy everything, and do the malpractice insurance and pay for the ENT until you're credentialed and stuff, I mean, you're easily looking at $250,000 to $300,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So tell us.
Talk to us.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Noelle.
No, you go, Lindsay.
I was just gonna say, so tell us about your transition from ENT. Yeah. Now you have a nurse practitioner, right? So you kind of mentioned that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So our ENT had started at the end of 2024. And then last year, he and his family decided to move and relocate to a different state. And so I thought, oh my gosh, like it's going to take me forever to find another ENT. And I sent a message out to all of my ENT colleagues that I knew, and, we're going to be looking for a new ENT. If you know anybody, or, wink, if you're interested, you don't like where you are. But and all of them messaged back and said, I'll keep an ear out and let you know. And I don't like it. I mean, like literally sometimes, like these ideas, they just hit you, right? I was sitting there thinking like, how are we going to continue this continuity of care and make sure that these patients are still getting seen? Because we do have an ENT group that's about an hour away. They're still, and it's where our other location is in Somerset. And we work with them really closely, and it just like hit me. And I was like, why don't we hire a nurse practitioner? And so I put some feelers out. I asked a couple of colleagues. I asked some people who, work in an ENT clinic. And all of them were like, that's a great idea. Like that is actually a perfect idea because hiring a nurse practitioner is going to be a lot easier than finding a surgeon. And so I put a post out, and I had several people apply. And we found Stephanie Lovett is her name. Interviewed her. She's from this area, born and raised. She's been in ER medicine, which helps with some of the stuff that we see in the clinic, especially like nosebleed stuff. But she had been in primary care and really wanted to make a change, and really like kind of what we want to do, really wanted to make a difference for her community specifically. She's from this area. And she knows how much it's needed. She's in primary care, so she's referring out to ENT. She was referring to us. And so we brought her on. She got to spend some time with our ENT. She's been doing lots of trainings. We have her going to other trainings here in a couple of months, and she's done a great job. And that's how we did it.
Yeah. Well, when you and I were talking about that and you told me that, it was like, oh my gosh, that is such a great idea. Like, why haven't we all done that? So
why haven't we all thought of that? And,
why haven't we?
the nurse practitioners, a lot of the private practice nurse practitioners are primary care. And, they kind of figured that out, right? Like, I don't need to work under a physician. I can work on my own. I can be in primary care, private clinic. And I really think that we're going to start seeing a shift in the next few years for all of these specialty nurse practitioners, the neurology, orthopedic, ENT, all of these nurse practitioners are going to start going, well, I can do this on my own and open their own clinic, still work with the surgeons just like all of the other ones do. But right now, most of them are working in the clinic with the surgeons. And I think we'll probably start to see a shift, and they'll start opening their own private practices.
That was going to be my question. I guess I thought, does a nurse practitioner have to be supervised by a physician? Clearly
that's
not.
what I was thinking too, Lindsay.
No, well, at least not in Kentucky. Again, I don't know in every state, but in Kentucky, several years ago, nurse practitioners went and fought for that. They used to in Kentucky, but they fought at the state level, and they said, we are the ones that are in the rural areas. And it's true, like the physicians are not here. We are. And so they fought for that. Now, in order to prescribe, they do have to have what's called a collaborative relationship to prescribe medication. But after they've done that for so many years, they can apply to not have that supervision. But the physician does not have to be on site. And you can actually, and because we're doing this right now, you can hire there are companies that, put you in connection with physicians that are in your state or licensed in your state to have a collaborative relationship. You have to have quarterly meetings. Yeah. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that makes so much. And so what are the kind of things that the physician, nurse practitioner can do? I'm thinking like in my head, physician's assistant, nurse practitioner. So it couldn't be a physician's assistant. It has to be a nurse practitioner.
It has to be a nurse practitioner. Yeah. The PA can't work independently of a physician. Okay. But I mean, she does everything but surgery. She can scope, she can stop a nosebleed, she can clean ears, she can order and prescribe. So really outside of surgery, she's doing pretty much everything. Now there are some things that she'll see, we'll get an ear in here or a nose or whatnot. And she's like, okay, this is a little outside of my comfort zone, or this is a little bit, more. So she might prescribe a medication, and then we're calling our colleagues in Somerset and saying, hey, we've got somebody that we need you to see as quickly as possible. So,
yeah, I just think that's a cool.
You're always such a trailblazer.
She's a little trailblazer.
I never worked in an ENT clinic outside of, grad school. And so I never really realized that. I mean, like 90% of what physicians are doing is clinical. Their medication, their follow-ups, that's why they only have 1, maybe 2 days a week of surgery because the rest of it is all clinic. Yeah. And so I was like, well, if we only need clinic stuff, then why don't we hire a nurse practitioner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genius.
Love it. I can't wait to hear more about that too. But let's move on to your audiology assistant and how you kind of incorporate your assistants in your culture.
So that came about, that had to have been in like 2019 or 2020. My other audiologist at the time was pregnant, and, those who follow me on social media, kind of know my opinions on, maternity leave and, supporting working parents. And so she was planning on taking 12 weeks at a minimum. And I thought that was great. And then, but on the business side going, okay, well, how are we going to see double the patients while she's gone?
Mhm.
And I had a PCC who came from veterinary world, and she was a vet tech. And this was actually really her idea. And she said, well, when I was helping the vet, this is how we did it. And basically it was, I mean, it's an MA. It's an MA/PA kind of like mixed together. They're rooming the patients. They're doing the case history. I'm going in, I'm doing the test, and reviewing the results at a high level. And then, whatever the next steps are, if it was refer to an ENT, or it was a third party conversation, or, okay, Dr. Rogers recommended hearing aids, we need to schedule a consultation because we don't typically do that on the same day. Let's get that scheduled. And I'm moving into the next room where the next patient is waiting for me. So we kind of overlapped our schedule. So she would be with one patient, either starting or finishing, while I'm with one patient. And then I would go into that room and start testing or programming or, whatever it was, if it was a fitting. And then another really big thing that they did for us before we started using AI scribes was they were actually scribing for us, which made such a huge difference.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And now most of us are using an AI scribe now. And so they're able to do more things in the clinic, a lot more, back and forth, or let me go up front and help somebody. Let me go make a phone call while you're testing and things like that.
Yeah. So how much time do you think?
But that was kind of the big thing. Go ahead.
No, I was just asking time-wise, like,
most people think of assistance of like checking in hearing aids or like entering in information. Most people that I've talked to didn't really think about having an assistant in the room with them. And I think that was the difference on how we decided to incorporate them and how we decided to overlap our appointments. Or like hearing aid troubleshooting, Bluetooth troubleshooting, accessory troubleshooting, all of that kind of stuff goes through the assistants first before they get to a provider.
Yeah. I always thought to myself, like, just the time that it takes me to go out to the waiting room, get the patient, bring the patient in, start with my history. When I'm done, I have to kind of like wrap it up, bring them out front. Like that probably adds 10 to 15 minutes on, over the course of different appointments. And so I feel like that's just makes so much more sense. You go do what you need to, and then you go to the next room.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you have to have, a little bit of extra space in order to do that model. You have to have at least one extra area where they can work the patient up and do the case history. So sometimes that's a limitation, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a big room, right? Just the little room where they can talk to them. I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I think we were able to see 5 additional patients a day.
Wow.
When we did that model, when we were overlapping them.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay, let's shift into your fun social media journey that you've gone on as of recent. What motivated you to start creating content and to put yourself out there?
So I come from musical theater world. That's what I did in high school. That's initially what I thought I was going to do, forever, was be in theater. And I hated it when I got to the college level. Like, I don't know why. I was just like, no, this is not for me. But I don't know. We were just kind of like sitting around. We already had an online presence. We had somebody who was posting educational stuff. And I guess I just started really getting into, I'm not on TikTok, but I know like the theme is the dental talks. And I just started seeing their posts. And I thought, man, these dentists have really got it wired as far as like funny content. And really the idea was coming from like, I want more people to know what we do. I want more people to know about audiology. How do we get in front of more people? Well, you got to start either acting like an idiot and being really super funny and silly, or, making the call. You got to be funny, or you've got to be controversial, or whatever it is. And so that's where it came from. I was like, I'm trying to get not just our practice, but audiology in front of more people. And how do we do that? And then just started kind of doing random trainings and webinars and stuff from the influencer gurus on how to go viral and stuff like that. And I tell you, it worked. I mean, we have a video that hit over 1 million views. We've got several videos. Yeah, we've got several videos that are, over 300,000. So they do know what they're talking about.
I love that.
Wow. Yes. Yes.
Who
I
do
feel like
you,
more of us need that kind of training, you
that's what I was
know?
gonna say. Who are the influencer gurus? Is it people from our industry or is it like
Um,
outsiders?
Well, I
no, it was
know
like social media
Ellie.
influencers.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the first training that I did was Adley Kinsman. She's with Viralish out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I did her training and I did her 7-day challenge.
Oh,
And
cool.
my first video that we did went viral.
Oh my gosh, so cool.
oh.
So it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And do you
Yeah, it
ever
works.
feel, Lindsay and I were talking the other day, like I haven't really put myself out there too much because I don't want the criticism. And there's just such horrible trolls out there that are so mean. I just have to
Oh
toughen
my
up. We
gosh.
decided that's going to toughen up for this year. But do you have
Yeah.
any, yeah, like tell me how you deal with that.
So the video that I posted, it wasn't the one that I did for that challenge, but it was my first one. It was employees really need to stop asking for PTO,
Oh
right?
yeah.
The
I saw
video
that one.
is 30 seconds long. It's 30 seconds long. In the time that it took for these people to write their comment, my video was over. Like, did you all not hear, the payoff, which is
Yeah.
they shouldn't be worried about this. Like, give them the time or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I had people telling me I needed to F off and die. I had people telling me, like, someone was like, what did he say? He said, you're a horrible manager, and of course you're a woman, or something
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh.
And I commented back and I said, oh, look, a man who doesn't listen. Like, I just started having fun with it. I was like, if you guys are going to be a-holes to me, I'm going to be a-holes to you. But I will say there were a couple of them that we hid because they were really nasty and aggressive. But I'll tell you, the big positive of being great to your employees is I didn't need to do anything. Man, my employees like swarmed that post and we're all over it. I mean, like, you don't know
Get
what
back,
you should
people.
watch this video, and like she's wonderful and like all this stuff. And I was like, well, I mean, I didn't even need to fight. So
Yeah, they took care of you.
Fight for
yeah.
me. Fight for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, here's the thing, Noelle, and it is hard, and I get it. But I mean, you can hide them if you want to, but that feeds the algorithm, right? Like that's the controversy.
Yeah,
You want
true.
these people commenting because then you have other people like that are not related to your practice at all that are coming in and going, did you even watch the video? And then they start fighting with each other. And then you're like, okay, great, feed the algorithm, keep commenting.
That is true. I got to be braver. So this is my year to
be brave, Noelle. Be brave. All right, we ready for rapid fire?
Rapid fire. Do you have anything else first? Do you have anything else you want to kind of wrap up before we do the rapid fire?
I don't think so.
All right. What's one word that describes you and why?
I'm very determined. I've always been very determined.
That's a good one.
I have this I don't know what it is, but once I decide I'm going to do something, that's what I do. So.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like that's it. You got to make a decision, you line up with it, and you just don't let anything derail you. And it's going to happen for you. I think when you waver, that's when you might not go off track and because somebody tells you to do something different. So determined. I love that. If you could master any new skill overnight, what would it be and why?
It would be going viral every time.
Ooh,
every single time. I think I have these like great video ideas and we do them and it's like you get 400 views. I'm like, man, what did I do wrong?
For me, that would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see hearing healthcare 10 years from now?
I see it more like dental. Hopefully, our assistants are the ones that are testing and we are the ones that are going in, checking the work. I actually see it flipped kind of like I want to go in and do the case history and then go, okay, assistant, I want you to do tense reflexes, this test, Quicksand, whatever. And I'm going to come back and, I leave and I go do the fitting or something like that. And so you can have like 3 or 4 going at the same time.
Yes, I love that.
What is your coffee order that gets you through a busy day?
I am a coffee snob. I don't even order it from anywhere because nobody will make it correctly. But I have bulletproof coffee, like the brand Bulletproof, and I use Laird superfood creamer.
Mm.
And I don't know. I just like, I'm so addicted to it that if it doesn't taste like that, I'm just like, this isn't any good.
You're not having it. So what do you do when you travel? You know, like you have to bring it with you?
I bring my creamer. It's because it's in powder form. So I just bring it with me.
There you go.
And what's a sound that makes you happy?
Oh, my baby's laughs. All my kids laughs.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, if money was not a concern, what would you be doing?
We'd be traveling all the time. Like I love traveling with my husband and my kids, and we would be doing that all the time.
Me too.
Yes,
me too.
Always things. Yeah. And what is one thing our profession could do better for patients and for each other?
I think that we could really realize that there's not enough of us and really focus on how to educate the public on why they need to come and see us instead of being very territorial. There's a reason that there, even in my small little town, that there's a dentist on every other corner, because everybody has teeth and everybody needs a dentist. And if everybody who needed audiology woke up tomorrow and said, I'm going to go find an audiologist, we would be underwater.
Flooded.
So I think we could do a better job of working together for the public.
Yes.
I totally agree. Which bee fits you best? Be kind, be brave, be curious, be bold, or be happy?
Be happy.
Love that. Be happy. Okay. And on that note, our Be Curious for the week is your concert venue. Tell us about this. This is what I'm most excited
this
to hear
is
about.
a very unique Be Curious.
Forget audiology. Tell me about the concert venue.
A couple of years ago, my husband owns real estate, single family, commercial, things like that. And a few years ago, his real estate agent that he works with a lot called him and said, hey, I've got a deal for you that I think you need to look into. So Felt's Music place is kind of like a staple in Corbin. It was owned by the Felt's family for years and years and years. And they had a lot of people come through, play there before they got like really big, right? So they had all these pictures on the wall of different artists that played there before they hit it big. And so it was for sale. And so my husband looked at it. There was already a renter lined up at the time. And so he bought it. They moved in. They were running it for a few years. And then they decided to leave. And I asked him, I said, what made you decide to like run this? And he goes, I don't know. I just thought, well, I'll do it. And so for nobody who has put it together yet or doesn't know, my husband's name is Kenny Rogers. And so for everybody millennial and older, they get it. Anybody younger than me, they're like, who? But he started working with a PR person who said, you need to name it Kenny's, the other Rogers. And the vibe of the music venue is more like singer-songwriter, Appalachian grassroots. And when I tell people, like, he's completely remodeled the inside. It looks so beautiful. I can't wait for people to see it, especially those people who are here and went to Felt's and are now going to come here to see it again. But, think about the Chris Stapletons and the Tyler Childers and the Zach Browns before they hit it big. Like I saw Zach Brown in Louisville right before he hit it big. And that is the vibe here. There will also be some like bigger names that are going to come through. They're going to do like just an acoustic session and storytelling session that they're really excited about. So it's going to be great. Cool. We're super pumped. Yeah.
What a fun
that
little
is so cool. Yes.
So cool.
Yeah. We'll have to make a special trip there just to see it.
I hope so. So if you want to, you can follow along on that Facebook page so you can see all the things that are gonna. And
we'll post it below too. So we'll share it with everybody.
The other Rogers. We'll add it.
The other Rogers. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story and your perspective with us today, because it is unique and different, and it's just so great to hear what you're doing. So from your origin story to the collaborative model that you have built, bringing audiology, speech, nurse practitioners, and ENT together, your approach reflects both intention and heart. And it's just been a great time talking to you and learning what you're up to. And it's given me a lot of ideas for my future as well. And I think we should be really eye-opening and exciting to newer
Yeah.
audiologists too. You
Yeah.
know, that we may have this whole new way of doing things. So thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
on and
Thank you for having me, you guys. It was so good to see you and talk to you.
yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Liz.
you. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time on the Sound Sisters, everyone.